You are about to hear the conservative voice. Freedom Report begins right now. Good evening and welcome to the Freedom Report powered by the Madison Institute. I'm Daniel Moss, alongside my friend and co-host from Madison Institute, Kelly Berry.
Hey Daniel, how are you?
I'm excellent. So, once again, we're talking about this Republican primary coming up in Alabama,
Right.
March 13th.
Right.
Okay. As you know, we were just talking about before we started recording, prayer is so important.
That's right.
God can do in 5 minutes what it would take us a lifetime
That's exactly
to
right.
complete. And keep in mind, viewers, as we continue to talk about issues and these problems, our solution, and the easy solution, I guess, to give is prayer. But it's always the best solution.
Followed up by action.
Right. And that action is God's plan for
Right.
us. We got to listen in that prayer to get God's plan and purpose for us, which
That's
we
right.
do have in accordance to Jeremiah 29:11.
That's right.
And it's a plan to prosper us
That's right.
and not to harm us.
That's it.
Give us hope in the future.
Yep.
All right. So, welcome back to the Voter's Guide on the Freedom Report powered by the Madison Institute. We've been talking about liberty.
We have.
Liberty is the most important, or the number one thing we said we're looking for in a candidate.
That's right.
A candidate who will preserve liberty.
Preserve liberty.
And we've got an interesting quote.
We
If you
do.
want to read it for us?
Noah Webster, as part of his definition of liberty, said, "Any attempt to conduct the affairs of a free government with wisdom and impartiality, and to preserve the just rights of all classes of citizens, without the guidance of divine precepts, will certainly end in disappointment." That is a profound statement. But then he follows up and says, "God is the supreme moral governor of the world he has made. And as he himself governs with perfect rectitude, he requires his rational creatures to govern themselves in like manner. If men will not submit to be controlled by his laws, he will punish them by the evils resulting from their own disobedience." Mm-hmm. Interesting, isn't it?
It is. There's quite a few things you can draw from that.
Yep.
The first and most profound that I see is obedience leads to blessing and disobedience leads to bondage.
That's right.
It's very easy to see there that he says, you disobey me, he's going to punish us by the evils resulting from our own disobedience.
That's right.
He's not pushing
No.
the evil on us. He's just removing his protection because we've been disobedient.
Mm-hmm.
And obedience brings the blessings back. But
That's
God
right.
is a God of do-overs, as we all know.
That's right.
Okay. Second thing I notice is that first paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
as you see on your screen. That is the Democrats' argument today.
It is.
An attempt to conduct the affairs of free government in wisdom and impartiality, which is a government that God set up for us in the beginning, 1789, when they ratified the Constitution. That's what kind of government he set up for us.
That's exactly right. We've talked about that on this show many times.
And they're trying to preserve the rights of class of citizens without the guidance of the divine precepts. And it will certainly end in disappointment. Okay. Something else you notice there?
Now, you could also say that you cannot preserve the rights of the class of citizens if you don't have godly principles to use.
Right.
So that what they're trying to do is not able to be done.
Yeah, because you're trying to adapt. You're trying to accept or to use godly principles without using God.
Right.
And obviously that's not going to work.
And I don't know that they're actually trying to use godly principles. They're trying to use their own.
Right. And they're trying to make it seem like that fits with the Constitution.
Exactly.
Right. And so the Democrats are trying to preserve the rights of all class citizens. You know, that's something they talk about all the time.
That's right.
Okay, we want everybody to move towards that middle class. We want everybody to have the same opportunities, and then, boom, disappointment hits because it's not going to happen without the divine precepts of God. Right? We've already established that God is the one who allows us to have wealth. So when we allow God to rule, we will still have the class of citizens because he says the poor will be with us always. But being a first-class citizen or being a third-class citizen is only as long as you want to be that.
Right.
It's a choice. It's a state of mind.
It is, and I think the Democrats' view of the world, I think, was said very well by George Orwell in Animal Farm. He said, "All animals are equals, but some animals are more equal than others."
Yeah. and beautifully portrayed in that story, right?
Absolutely. The interesting thing about this quote too is it is very consistent with the Bible. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians that the Lord is that Spirit. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. We've all heard that discussion, but the Bible talks about that. Galatians, he says, "Stand fast, therefore, to liberty, wherewith Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." So Jesus made us free.
Right.
And if we get back under bondage, it's because of our own entanglements. We went back and tried to...
God says right there in Galatians, obedience equals blessings, and
right.
liberty, disobedience.
That's right.
Bondage.
That's it. And then again in Luke 4, Jesus himself said that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He sent me to heal the brokenhearted, preach deliverance to the captives, recovering of sight to the blind, and then to set at liberty them that are bruised or in bondage, and to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. So the Bible is very clear about its view of liberty, that God gave us. He made us free. He made us under liberty and gave us a government to preserve that. Now it's up to us to vote to continue to preserve that.
So since this is a voter's guide, I want to take the information that we've just used, and my question to you is, how do we apply that when we're looking at these four candidates we're trying to vote for?
Well, we've got to look at these candidates and how they view freedom, and liberty, and freedom. Do they? And that's how they. How do you view government? Do you view government? What is the purpose of government? First of all,
is it to govern or to win? Right? Is that what we were talking about earlier?
Well, no. The purpose of government. Why does government established?
To
preserve the rights of the citizens.
Right.
Okay.
Life, liberty, pursuit, happiness.
Exactly. So if the purpose of government is to preserve the rights of the citizens, then anything they do to infringe upon those rights is not what they're supposed to be doing, right? Is wrong.
So we're looking for someone who has limited government views?
Exactly. We're looking for somebody that knows the Constitution was set up with enumerated powers, few and specified, as the Constitution says, and somebody that's going to preserve to get us back, or that's going to work to get us back to those few and specified enumerated powers.
Right. And those God-given inalienable rights
Exactly.
of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's what we're looking for. We've got to get back to that basic stuff.
Yep.
Keeping it simple,
That's right.
really.
It is.
And, that's what we're doing with our voter guide, and it's going to really lead us back to prosperity.
Absolutely.
Which is something we're going to talk about here in a minute. So up next, we're going to talk about budgeting. We're going to go give Kelly the terrific trio on budgeting, see how he answers these questions. And also, we're going to look at the path to prosperity. Be right back in 1 minute.
Burton's Food Store on Highway 431 in Sardis, a convenient locally owned store offering groceries at affordable prices. Burton's provides fresh ground beef, fresh cut meats, fresh produce, and fresh dairy products every day and features weekly specials on brand name canned goods, drinks, and paper goods. Burton's Food Store, Highway 431 in Sardis, your local place to shop for fresh food at affordable prices.
Does your business need any type of office supplies or office furniture? If so, we recommend Business Products and Services of Alabama. Business Products and Services is locally owned and operated and offers competitive discount pricing that's guaranteed on every product selected from their vast online catalog. Orders can be placed by phone with Alabama-based customer service reps, or you can utilize their easy online ordering system. Either way, you'll receive free next-day delivery. So, if you're ready to do business with a just and honest Alabama company, contact Business Products and Services at 205-290-9303 or online at bpsorder.com.
And welcome back to the Freedom Report, powered by the Madison Institute. I'm Daniel Moss. Is good government really God's will? It's an interesting question posed by many. A lot of us, complain a lot, but we rarely pray. So I want to take you into the Bible really quickly. 1 Timothy 2, 1 through 4. God outlines what we're supposed to do in prayer. The first verse is very simple. It says our duty is to pray. And to pray specifically for kings and all those in authority, which in our case, since we don't have a monarchy in the United States, we are to pray for our government. The United States is the leading distributor of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and what type of government is more likely to distribute the gospel, a good government or a bad government, right? It's God's will is for His truth to be spread and His truth to be fulfilled, and it's more, a good government distributes the truth better than a bad government. I think me and you both can agree on that. So, our duty as Christians in the United States is to pray for good government, because good government is God's will. If we know that we are praying in accordance to God's will, then we have faith to proclaim it. But if we're not sure that good government is God's will, our prayers are wavering and inefficient. And this whole thing is coming from Derek Prince's book called Shaping History. And I want you to go out and buy a copy of this book. It's an amazing book. Mom's reading it, and I'm sort of, reading through the highlighted parts. As we look, we can see that God can do in 5 minutes what it would take us a lifetime to do. We have not, because we ask not. So are you praying for your government every day? Just a little tidbit of hope and a little bit of a challenge to you this new year. All right, so I'm joined again by my co-host, Kelly Berry. When we left off in the last segment, you asked me what the purpose of government was.
Right.
Obviously, we decided in the break that the best answer is to find in the preamble.
Right.
To, what was it we said?
Constitution.
The preamble of the Constitution, right. That to secure the blessings of life and liberty to ourselves and our children, right, and their children's children, right, our posterity. So, anywhere in that purpose of government, does taking on debt have any significance in the purpose of government at all?
I think only in an emergency.
Right. So
I think that's the way our founders viewed that as well. That
question and that comment there leads us right into today's terrific trio question. We're going to pick at Kelly's mind a little bit more today on on budgeting, and I got some interesting stuff for you. So, for our audience's information again, we have 3 questions, and we'll have 1 minute to answer each question. So, are you ready, Kelly?
I'm ready.
All right, question number 1.
I haven't seen these either. So.
Okay, and I'm sure just this last time we'll have excellent answers. Number 1, each day we hear in the news about America's overwhelming debt.
Right.
Explain to us a general overview of how we could possibly owe $15 trillion. Well,
it's actually much worse than that, because the Federal Reserve has been loaning money they weren't reporting to us. The thing that we have to understand is that when we set the Federal Reserve up in 1913, the United States, the people, the citizens, were all on the hook. We were responsible for whatever they did.
Okay.
And so, and yet we don't control the Fed.
Right.
They are an independent. They're not part of our government, Daniel. Most people do not know that. The Federal Reserve is not a government agency. They are a private bank. And they were owned by, I think it was 5 families, right, that originally set it up at Jekyll Island, in South Carolina. And so they are a privately held bank that loaned money to the United States. And so every dollar we get from them, we are borrowing from that bank. It's an obligation that every single one of us have.
So some of that money may not be reported.
That's right. And they're loaning money, and they don't even have to tell us. Matter of fact, last summer was the first time that the Fed had even been audited by anyone from the United States government. And I think the number that came out was like $60 trillion.
Ooh.
I think it was $60 trillion that the Fed has loaned.
That's tough to fathom.
That's hard to fathom. How do we owe that much money? Because we have failed to live within our budgeting. Okay. We have violated the principle of the Constitution. You know, the Constitution said that the federal government has few and enumerated powers, specific and few enumerated powers, and they're in the Constitution. We have failed as a Congress, as a people, to enforce the Congress to live within those few enumerated powers. So, that's why, and we keep paying people to do nothing. We keep paying people to be non-productive. Yeah. And so as a result of that, we owe, as you said, $15 trillion. So as long as you spend more than you take in, Daniel, last week at the end of December 31st, 2011, we crossed the threshold where we owe 100.3% of our gross domestic product. And you know what the gross domestic product is? That's the value of all of our goods and services produced by the country. Wow. So we now owe more money than we can produce in a year.
Wow. 0.3% more.
Isn't that amazing?
So we're going to look some more at those numbers here in this.
And one more comment on that one. No country in the history of the world has ever survived when that ratio went above 93.3%.
Good answer. Question number 2. Is it right for our government to have the ability to take on debt? I know I've asked this question once again, but is it right?
Is it right? It is the responsibility of the government to do that, and I think in times of national, like the Civil War, they went and borrowed money, then they levied a tax afterwards to pay the money back. The problem is we don't have a government that has enough responsibility or enough self-control to keep itself in check.
Okay, and last question really quickly. Many times we find ourselves complaining about massive debt, but rarely do we pray about it. What is the best way and simplest way to pray for this issue?
Well, the simplest way to pray is for God's will to be done in our government, and to pray without ceasing about this issue. But as I've said before, prayer is not enough. We have to act, and we have to act at the polling booths. We have to act when we vote. When it's time to vote, we have got to vote for people who are committed to this issue of reducing debt and putting godly principles back in our government and getting back to the Constitution.
Very good answers, as always. Coming up next, the path to prosperity. Be right back. And make sure you check out and give your business to our sponsors. We very appreciate them so very greatly. Be right back in 1 minute.
Do you need help promoting your business? Do you want to have that special day captured forever, or that first Christmas or first birthday never forgotten? Then contact Celebrity Productions. We offer wedding videos of photography, picture slideshows of music, video editing, television commercials, and much more. So if you are ready to do business, contact Mark Bosch with Celebrity Productions at 205-434-1773 or mark.celebrityproductions@gmail.com. Celebrity Productions, here for all your video capturing needs. Burton's Food Store on Highway 431 in Sardis, a convenient locally owned store offering groceries at affordable prices. Burton's provides fresh ground beef, fresh cut meats, fresh produce, and fresh dairy products every day and features weekly specials on brand name canned goods, drinks, and paper goods. Burton's Food Store, Highway 431 in Sardis, your local place to shop for fresh food at affordable prices.
And welcome back to the Freedom Report, powered by the Madison Institute. I'm Daniel Moss. As Kelly and I have been talking about, our country has taken on a massive amount of debt. $15 trillion, if not more, as Kelly mentioned. Just think about it. That number is difficult to even fathom. There are many grim prognoses for what is to happen to this land because of its compilation of this debt. There is even those who go as far as to say that raising taxes to pay off this debt will improve the economy. We have to look no further than our own history books to see what happens to societies who don't manage their debts. they cease to exist. But that's not my goal to preach gloom and doom. My goal is to give you hope. There is a plan and a path that has been offered. It is a path to prosperity.
The facts are very, very clear. The United States is heading toward a debt crisis. The only solutions will be truly painful for us all. That doesn't have to be our future. The way we respond to this challenge will ultimately define our generation. We can choose a path to prosperity. Let's take a look at how we can do it. Our debt as a share of the economy is already too high, but look at where it's going. These are actually pretty conservative estimates. We face a crushing burden of debt, which will take down our economy. It will lower our living standards. Actually, I asked the Congressional Budget Office to model the economy going forward. So they have these computer programs that simulate the U.S. economy. The computer program crashes in 2037 because it can't conceive of any way in which the U.S. economy can continue because of this massive burden of debt. You know, the economists tell us, when your debt gets to 90% as a share of your economy, you start slowing down and we stagnate. We prevent that from ever happening. Here's what would happen under our proposed budget, what we're calling the path to prosperity. As you can see, we won't come anywhere close to the tipping point, and we'll pay off the debt over time. So how will we do it? We will cut spending. Washington's unsustainable spending is driving the nation's permanent plunge into debt. Look at the growth of government under the current path we are on. The government grows to such high levels that by the time my 3 children are my age, the government will be twice the size for them than what it is for me. Our plan brings spending back down to the historic level of 20% as a share of our economy. Washington has not been telling you the truth. If we don't reform spending on government health and retirement programs, we have zero hope of getting our spending and as a result our debt crisis under control. Next year, the government spends 68 cents out of every dollar you pay in taxes just to pay for these health and retirement programs and interest on the debt. By the year 2025, they will consume every penny of every tax dollar you send to Washington. Our budget saves and strengthens these programs. It fixes the flaws in Medicare and Medicaid that have made rising costs nearly impossible to check. This is the only way these programs can hope to survive and function into the future. Look, we have a choice of 2 futures. We know the path we are on right now. That's the path the president's proposing. A debt crisis, no health and retirement security, a diminished future, a stagnant country, less jobs, less prosperity. That is not the America we know. We can choose this other path, but we have to make that choice. We can lift the crushing burden of debt off of our children and grandchildren, and we can get this economy growing today. It is up to our generation to pick this path. The question is, will we do it or not? It is up to us.
That is just one man's opinion, or just one senator. Oh no, he's a representative. He's a House of Representatives member, but it's just one guy's idea of how to get this country back on track and get it back on the path to prosperity. But Kelly, what'd you think?
Well, he's absolutely right. Obviously, that video was about a year old.
Mm-hmm, right.
Because we just crossed 100.1% of GDP, and he was showing in there that it'd be in the 90s.
So it took a steeper look than what we thought.
Well, they spent more money. Mm-hmm. A lot more money. But he's absolutely right. There is no control right now of spending, and as long as we continue down that path, we're gonna spend ourselves out of existence. There's no doubt.
All right, so that's what Kelly and I were talking about. $15 trillion in debt. Take a look at your screen while Kelly explains just what $15 trillion really is.
Now, another thing that we're looking at this too, Daniel, is this. If you spent $1 million a day since the day Jesus was born, today you would have not spent $1 trillion. You'd only spent about $700 billion. And that's about the same amount of money that we bailed the banks out with.
Wow.
So we lose track in perspective when we start talking about these big numbers. But it's just obscene what the government is trying to do. And it is unsustainable. There's no way we can continue down this path.
Well, thank you, Kelly, for being with us today. You know, I want you to stay on watching the show because we're going to get you through this voter's guide. We're going to teach you how to vote, educate you on how to vote according to biblical principles, and we also want to take an in-depth analysis on continue on this budgeting topic and where our money goes. All right, so we want to thank all of our sponsors who so generously give to keep our goal of revealing and restoring truth on top. So, and we also want to encourage you, if you to get involved in sponsoring this goal and financially aiding this show. If you want to, you can contact us at the contact information on your screen. And we want to thank you again as viewers for tuning in. For Kelly Berry, I'm Daniel Moss. Remember, the Think Conservative voice stops right here because we're definitely looking out for you. Thank you very much.
Pretty soon, you're gonna pay the piper, and I don't mean a sniper. My vote's got a Teflon coat. Jeremiah writes, say it for the truth.
Chickens! Coming home!
Whatever happened to the whole boy? Tell from this, you can't stop this. So TP, good feeling when I vote boy. Cause you gotta go, yeah.
Fool me once, shame on me, shame on we. United States of America, fool me twice. It's not gonna happen, G. One-term president, OTP. One-term president? Nah, I ain't feeling that. Hardcore birthday here, let me make it clear for ya. B. Hussein, he isn't even president. We ain't seen a BC, he stood up all the evidence. OTP on my Camry, but I put a slash through the O. He's a zero-term pansy. Before Obama got elected, I was disrespected. All of my predictions were rejected. Now they all come to the mizza. I'm repping 5 Tea Party, flank 5 Freedom Fire hotties. Right-wing extremists, can I get a witness? You ain't down if you ain't on a watch list. Red medicine, I told ya. Spending trillions on nothing, yo, I told ya. Paying for abortions around the world, I told ya. I'm repping OTP, even Angelina's feeling me.
Whatever happened to the whole boy? Tell from this, you can't stop this. So TP, good feeling when I vote boy. Cause you gotta go,
Fool me once, shame on me, shame on we. United States of America, fool me twice. It's not gonna happen, G. One-term president, OTP.